I wanted to take some time to give you some detailed instructions about how to complete the small group activity plans in this course. In these assignments, you will be developing and reflecting on multiple small group activity plans for a group of preschool-aged children, ages 3 to 5 years old. You will use the principles of developmentally appropriate practice and active participatory learning to plan appropriate, meaningful, and challenging activities. You will use the following planning template to create your small group activity plans. Again, these should be designed for a group of preschool children ages 3 to 5. This plan must represent developmentally appropriate practice and reflect the 5 principles of active participatory learning. Throughout the course of the semester, you will create 4 math small group activity plans and 2 science small group activity plans. After planning each small group activity plan, it is important to consider the principles of developmentally appropriate practice as well as the elements of active participatory learning. For each of your activity plans, you will spend the last part of your plan reflecting on these 2 concepts by answering the following questions. How does your activity support the principles of developmentally appropriate practice, specifically in the way that the activity has been differentiated to meet the individual needs of the children? And how does the activity support the 5 components of active participatory learning: materials, manipulation, choice, child language and thought, and adult scaffolding? The orientation week of this course had you go through and review the concepts of developmentally appropriate practice and active participatory learning, so please be sure that you understand these concepts before starting your activity plans, since you will need to apply your understanding of these to your work. Now, let's look at the small group activity plan template in detail. If you have taken ECE 115 or another methods course, such as creative activities, you are familiar with this activity plan template. If you are taking ECE 115 at the same time as this course, you should be extremely comfortable using this template by the end of the semester, since you will have ample experience using this and applying your understanding of child development and developmentally appropriate practice to your planning. First, the red text is to help you understand the type of content that needs to be included in each section. So please be sure to remove the red text when using the template, since I just need to see your work and not the explanations. Next, where it states title of activity, please be sure to insert the title that you've given to your activity. Moving on. As you have learned, we should plan activities that support and extend the interest and the needs of the children. For the section on children's interest, you will come up with a fictional scenario that shows where this idea stemmed from and how it supports or extends the interest of the children. For example, maybe you observed a group of children playing restaurant in the house area, and so you decided to develop a language and literacy activity where the children create menus to put in the house area that they can use when they play restaurant. The age of the children will always remain 3 to 5 years old for all activity plans. The curriculum content area will either be math or science, depending on the content area you are planning for. For the section on the learning standards, you will go to the Illinois Early Learning Standards link on Blackboard and either click on the content area of math or the content area of science. Please use 2 to 3 learning standards from the Illinois Early Learning Standards to guide your activity. Let me again show you where that link can be found on Blackboard. For the materials, you will provide a bulleted list of all of the materials that you will use for this activity. In the reflection part of the activity plan at the bottom is where you will discuss how these materials support the elements of active participatory learning. You do not have to discuss that in the materials section of the activity plan. Add-on materials are materials that you don't present to the students at first in the activity, but bring them out as the activity progresses for multiple reasons. For example, if you see the activity going in a different direction and need to re-engage a student or set of students, you might need to have supplemental materials for that. Or you may have materials that you need to use to modify the activity for students to make it more or less challenging, depending on how students are engaging in the activity. Please think about the types of additional materials you might need to use for this activity. These are materials that you will use to differentiate the needs of the children. This section is where you will go into detail about the procedure of the activity. In this section, you will be scripting out what you will be saying and the types of things the students will be involved in during the activity. For the introduction of the activity, I want you to type out exactly what you will say to introduce the activity. In addition, the introduction is where you will introduce the materials to the students and give them an overview of what the activity entails. Don't be too wordy in your introduction because you don't want to overwhelm the students, but give them enough information so they know what to expect and what materials they have to use in the activity. In the middle of the activity, the children will now be at work actually engaging in the planned activity. Think about what the children will be doing, the ways they are using the materials, the conversations that they are having with you and their peers, the questions you will ask, the way you will support and engage with them, and the ways you may have to adapt and differentiate the activity as it moves along from beginning to end. This is the type of information that will go in this middle section. This section will take some critical thinking, and you really have to imagine how the activity may play out and your role in the activity as well. If you need help with this part of your activity plan, as this may be the most challenging, please let me know and I can provide some guidance to you. For the conclusion of the activity, you will include how you will bring the activity to a close, how the children will clean up the activity, and then you will list how you will specifically transition to the next part of the daily routine. The follow-up ideas section is just a bulleted list, maybe 3 to 5 ideas, of activities that you could do to continue to follow up and support the interest of the children. Again, if the interest was restaurant, what are some other ideas you could do to support this idea? These do not have to be math and/or science activities. The assessment always points back to the learning standards that you chose to guide this activity. The assessment will determine how the children met the standards of the activity. In this section, you will discuss how you will know the students met the standards. This may be something such as an observed behavior, work sample collection, or conversation, or all three. In this last section, you will reflect on your planning by answering these 2 questions. These should be answered in essay form in separate paragraphs. The first question asks, how does your activity support the principles of developmentally appropriate practice, specifically in the way that the activity has been differentiated to meet the individual needs of the children? Then the second question asks you to answer, how does the activity support the 5 components of active participatory learning: materials, manipulation, choice, child language and thought, and adult scaffolding? I hope that this video has helped to further clarify the expectations and guidelines for the small group activity plan assignments. Should you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Good luck, and I can't wait to see the activities you have planned.